Go Go You may be seated. Thank you all for coming, and for all of you that are able to be online. I'm Chaplain Diane Peterson, and I'm honored to be a part of this celebration of life for David Charles Skitt. Dave's family would like to thank you for the outpouring of love during this time and the assistance of this service to honor him. Today, we've come to honor, to give thanks, and express our love for Dave and the impact that he has left in our hearts. As we accept the reality of life, we also know the reality of death. Death is not an easy thing. Dave was a paramedic. He saw death up close. And sometimes it can be hard to know where God is when you answer a horrible call as a responder. And it can also be especially hard for the families because they see the aftermath and toll that it takes on the responder. And yet it is a true calling. Dave cared about people. I know as I was going through the scriptures, I found a verse that talks about peace of heart and mind. Peace of heart and mind. I believe Dave found that in service. Service in the Air Force and the Ski Patrol and as a paramedic and much more. Because a life of over 60 years of immeasurable service, that's amazing. He had to have peace of mind to do that in service to others. But what counts in life is not the mere fact that we lived. It's the difference that we make in the lives of others. The difference he's made in the lives of each of you. In John 14:3, it says, "Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. In my Father's house are many mansions, and I will go and prepare a place for you, that where I am, you may be also, and I will come back for you." Dave may not be here physically, yet his spirit will live in each one of you. So Rob and Alan, Bill and Trish and Rose, family, grandkids, great-grandkids, today and in the days to come, let that hole in your heart be filled with love, and let the tears come. And it's okay to laugh too. And I hope today that there, as you have tears, that you will also have some laughter. So please join me in prayer. Dear God, we thank you for this day to celebrate Dave's life. We seek your comfort and care for those loved ones who remain. Wrap them in your grace. Help them in the days to come. Amen. Now we're going to hear from some family members and friends. And we're going to start with Rob.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. My name's Rob. I'm the eldest son of my dad, Dave. I knew this day was coming for a little while now. Wasn't ready for it then, still not ready for it now, so bear with me. My dad was a quiet person, but his actions spoke volumes with the service that he provided his country when he was in the Air Force, the city when he was working with the water utility, and as a paramedic, to the community with all the work that he's done with the Ski Patrol and Red Cross. He was very giving of his time, and he loved what he was doing. He loved everybody that's here. You were one great big family for him. He opened up his house for the end of the year patrol parties. I think he really looked forward to that, just having everybody around with the boots off, jackets off, and able to fire up the grill with the steaks and enjoy the beers. and the good conversations and stories. My dad raised 4 children, and if anything that out of that growing up process and learning from him, he taught us how to be humble and how to serve our communities, to offer a helping hand to anybody that's in need. I can only hope that I can live up to the standard that he set for our family and in the community going forward. He's truly going to be missed. As I was doing some research, trying to figure out what I was going to say, I came across this little story. The author's unknown, but I'd like to share it with everybody. When the Lord made EMTs and paramedics, he was into his 6th day of overtime when an angel appeared and said, "You're doing a lot of fiddling around with this one." And the Lord said, "Have you read the specs on this order?" An EMS provider has to be able to carry an injured person up a wet, grassy hill in the dark, dodge stray bullets to reach a dying child unarmed, enter homes the health inspectors wouldn't touch, and not wrinkle their uniform. They have to be able to lift 3 times their own weight, crawl into wrecked cars with barely enough room to move, and console a grieving mother as they're doing CPR on a baby they know that will never breathe again. They have to be in top mental condition at all times, running on no sleep, black coffee, half-eaten meals, and they have to have 6 pairs of hands. "It's not the hands that are causing me the problems," said the Lord. "It's the 3 pairs of eyes that a medic has to have." "Is that on the standard model?" the angel asked. The Lord nodded. "1 pair that sees open sores as they're drawing blood and asks the patient if they might be HIV positive, when we already know they are and wish they had taken that accounting job. Another pair here in the side of the head for their partner's safety. Another pair of eyes here in front that can look supportive at a frightened person and gently explain that their spouse of many years has departed this life." "Lord," said the angel, touching his sleeve, "rest and work on this tomorrow." "I can't," said the Lord. "I already have a model that can talk a 250-pound drunk from behind a steering wheel without an incident and feed a family of 5 on a private service paycheck." The angel circled the model of the medic very slowly. "Can it think?" she asked. "You bet," said the Lord. "It can tell you the symptoms of 100 illnesses, recite drug calculations in its sleep, intubate, defibrillate, medicate, and continue CPR nonstop over terrain that any doctor would fear. It still keeps its sense of humor. This medic also has a phenomenal personal control. He can deal with multi-victim trauma, coax a frightened elderly person to unlock their door, comfort an assault victim's family, and then read an article in the daily paper about responders being too slow to locate a house which had no street sign or house number." Finally, the angel bent over and ran her finger across the leaned over and ran her finger across the cheek of the medic. "There's a leak," she pronounced. "I told you you were trying to put too much into this model." "That's not a leak," the Lord said. "It's a tear." "What's the tear for?" asked the angel. "It's for bottled up emotions for patients they have tried in vain to save. For a commitment to that hope that they will make a difference in a person's chance to survive. For seeing an accident victim walk away again. For family time that they will miss while serving the community for life." "You're a genius," said the angel. The Lord looked somber. "I didn't put it there," he said. That was my dad. My final words, I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss our time watching baseball, hoping that the Mariners will eventually make it to the playoffs. One of our final conversations, I told him before he passed, maybe he can do a little of the Angels in the outfield for them to help them out. When we let everybody know that he left us, the best way I could describe it was dispatched to patrol, sweeps off the mountains clear of all skiers. Your duty days over. Rest in peace, Dad. I love you.
Hello, I'm Alan. I'm the third son. And kind of like Rob, I didn't know what to say today. And I really didn't pull out my pad of paper until this morning. Mostly because how do you put into words a lifetime of memories and lessons from a great man? But I'll try to explain some of the things that I've learned from my father over the years. It's very organic because some of these lessons didn't really become aha moments until much, much later in life. My dad was very patient, and as Rob said, my dad was very quiet. He usually didn't have much to say, and as I've heard many people tell us, that when he did have something to say, you should probably listen, because it was either very witty or putting you in your place quietly. But growing up, it was very difficult when you knew you were going to be in trouble, because all he had to ask was, "What were you doing?" And wait. Because that silence is golden for him, because all I could do was squirm. And I think the longest I held out before I tattled on myself was about 5.5 minutes. Because all he would do is just sit and wait and watch and wait and watch. And so I had nothing to do but tattle on myself at that point and accept whatever punishment came to pass. As a young adult, though, I learned to appreciate this approach, because really, it has a lot to do with how he solved problems and how he taught people. And what he taught me was, if I could just think about it long enough and work myself through the situation and through the problem, I'll come up with the answer. You know, as a kid, you look to your parents for guidance and support and direction. As a teenager, you know everything, so you don't want to hear their guidance and support. And as an adult, you start to seek that advice again. My dad's approach never changed at any one of those phases. But learning to take in the whole situation, listen to input from others, and analyze, and then make your decision is what I took away from that experience with my dad. My dad was a teacher. When I would ask my dad what he thought if I was presented with a dilemma, his answer usually was, "Well, what do you think?" And I would say what I think, and he would say, "Well, do you think that'll work? Do you think that'll solve the problem?" I'm like, that's why I'm asking you these questions. Can you tell me what's happening? And he'll say, well, if you think that'll work, why don't you try it? And then I would try it, and if I would fail and go back to him, there was never and I told you so. There was never any criticism. It was a question of, what did you learn from this experience, and how would you do it differently? And I've always been a learner by doing, as opposed to textbooks or classrooms. I've always learned from my own experiences, and that's how he helped me grow into an adult and the adult I am today, is just simply by asking, well, what do you think? And waiting for an answer. One of the biggest decisions that my husband and I had to make as a couple was when our twins were born. And we didn't expect a baby to be born for us, let alone twins. So I was able to be at the hospital, and I was able to be in the OR when the twins were born via C-section. And then they got swept away to the NICU unit, and the first call I made after talking to my husband on the phone was to my dad. And he said, what's going on? And I said, well, I think you might possibly be a grandparent again. And he said, what? And I said, I think you might be grandparent to twins. He goes, well, I don't know what that means. And I said, well, we don't know if we're going to be able to keep them or not. What do you think? He says, well, I think you're going to make the best decision for you. And I think we did, because they're right here. So, but again, his guidance and support was, think through the problem, figure it out, and I'm here for you no matter what. The other thing I've learned from my dad is to get the job done. There was no task too big or no task too small. He always broke it down methodically and got it done. There wasn't any whining. There wasn't any complaining. He just did whatever it took to get it done. And so as an adult, doing mundane things like reports or inventory or any of those kinds of things, you just have to get it done. And he did that. He led by example, and he didn't complain once. But he also helped others. I think that's why he made a change from the water utility department to be a paramedic, is because of his love of helping others. I have heard many, many stories from folks about how he was a mentor to them as young adults. My dad never talked about that in our family. He just quietly did what he did and made an impression on folks and helped them and helped guide their lives into the right direction. But he didn't brag about it. And that's the other thing that I learned from him, is be humble. Step back, help people step back and let them shine in their own spotlight. My dad also didn't judge. He did not have unkind words to say about anyone. If I started to talk about somebody and kind of went down a negative path, he would stop, change the subject, or correct me. And he would gently remind me that everybody has their own journey. Everybody got to where they are in life today because of their unique situation. And we're not on this planet to judge people. We're just here to accept and help. And that's a lesson I will always keep in my heart. And the last thing I learned from him is family is everything. And he was he would rarely talk to me sternly as an adult. And he came to visit me in Texas once, and I was working 3.5 hours away, and there was trouble where I was working. And not once, but twice in that visit, I had to leave Texas and drive to Oklahoma to take care of issues. Before he left that trip, he sat me down and said, son, find another job. Your family is more important than rushing off 3.5 hours away. You're going to miss important things in your life, your kid's life. And that's all he said, and then he was gone. So family matters, and it mattered a lot to my dad. And the last thing I know is that he loved me, and he loved my crazy family that I have helped create with my husband, and there has been no judgment. So I thank you for coming today to celebrate my dad and honor his memory, and God bless.
Pictures of him here. Well, I'm going to go with the theme here of not knowing really what to say. It took some time, and it kind of came to me this morning with, as Alan mentioned, and so forth. But almost 2.5 years ago, is it, that we were able to attend a ceremony or a party for him to honor 60 years of service with the Ski Patrol, and put together some tribute that we got to put in wording. So I decided to take what I wrote there and build off of that. So, but listening to my brother speak, I have so many flood of memories and other things that I wish I would have added, but there's a time. We've got all the time in the world to share all those stories. So, trying to put into words what my dad has meant to me and my family is a bit harder than I thought it would be. Over the past year, we have reminisced about how he came to Alaska through the Air Force and just decided to stay. He found the Ski Patrol, and I believe found a family, even before he met my mom, Ellen, and started their own family. The Ski Patrol had always been a big part of our family. Some people go to church on Sundays, and we would go skiing. My dad would always joke about what great conversationalists we were because we would sleep in the car all the way to Alyeska in the mornings and then all the way home in the evenings. What started out as a hobby for my dad turned into a lifetime of dedication and devotion to doing what he loved best, skiing and helping others. This passion is what led him to his careers as a paramedic with the Anchorage Fire Department and as a flight medic with Life Flight and Alaska Regional Hospital. Growing up with a paramedic and a nurse meant no excuses to miss school and a question of, how bad is it really? Still, we were raised in a home of love with support and security. Our home was always open to all the neighborhood kids and hosted many parties. Some of them they may not have known about. And in my dad's lifetime, he himself found long-lasting friendships and support, especially when he joined the Ski Patrol. He may not have known this would happen when he started this over 60 years ago, but it was exactly what helped him get through the ups and downs of life. Marriage, children, dedicated careers with the municipality of Anchorage as an engineer, Anchorage Fire Department as a paramedic, and a flight medic with Life Flight. Retirement, which meant more time to devote to the patrol. Grandchildren, great-grandchildren, a devastating house fire, the loss of his wife Ellen, the rebuild of a beautiful house, which continued to host grand parties, quad bypass surgery, and finding a new love with Rose. The steady consistency through all was the unconditional, no questions asked, be there in a heartbeat, dedication and devotion given to my dad and our family in return. And I know he would have done the same for any one of you. My dad had a sense of community, a sense of purpose, a sense of family, and a sense of belonging, and we all benefited from it. He was a wonderful mentor, friend, husband, companion, grandfather, and father. The patrol has never been just a hobby. It is and always will be a way of life. And for that, I am grateful because it had made my dad the man he was, a man I am proud of and forever will be. He truly is the man, the myth, the legend. Thank you all for being here and honoring my dad. It means so much to my family and I.
I'm like the rest of them. I put my notes together this morning, but I'm really going to try. Oh, the microphone. Get it down to my level. It's pretty bad when Kate now is taller than I am. I'm Rose Phelps, for some of you who don't know me, and I have known Dave since early 60s. Yet I didn't really know Dave. Dave Skitt and Elmer Phelps came to Alaska about the same time. Dave as an engineer with the Air Force, as Trish said, and Elmer was a virologist with the Arctic Research Center. And they met on ski patrol at Alyeska. And soon after that, Elmer invited me to ski at Alyeska, and Dave invited Ellen. And Ellen and I enjoyed many weekends of talking and talking and talking, and there was even some skiing in there. Well, our guys patrolled. And then Elmer and I married, and shortly after that, Dave married Ellen. And Elmer and Dave were close friends, and Ellen and I were close friends. At our many, many get-togethers over all the years, Dave talked to Elmer quietly, and Ellen and Rose talked louder, of course, but I didn't really know Dave. All I knew was Ellen, and Ellen talked about life and the kids and everything else, and the same with me. And then Elmer and I transferred to Fairbanks, and we had just unpacked for the first time. Everything was in its place, and the city was flooded. We had 4 feet of water in our house. Dave came and quietly helped pull out the wet stuff in the walls and put us back together. Our family moved to Europe and then to Missouri and then to Maryland, and we always kept in touch with Dave and Ellen. And when we moved back to Alaska, guess who? Dave was there to help us build our new home. And we kept close touch during Dave and Ellen's long fight with her cancer. Dave never shirked in his responsibility or his love for Ellen. We grieved with the family when Ellen died, and my husband died the following year. Dave pulled himself from his grief to help me, and I'm sorry. Dave was patient, he was strong, he was honest, he was steady, he was reliable, and I finally got to know Dave. We had 12 great years together. I find it hard to go for a walk without his hand holding mine and keeping me safe. Thank you for coming. And this is my daughter, Christine.
All right, it's hard to take over after that, but I wanted to say that Dave was part of my life since I was about 6 years old, and Ellen taught me how to make banana bread and babysat us kids. But I only got to know him during the last 10 years also. And when Ellen and then my dad Elmer died, Dave and Mom helped each other through it, through their grief and loss. But it was the most amazing thing because they each knew the other so well. There was never any hesitation to talk about Ellen or Elmer in just such a natural conversation way. And that was a blessing to all of us, I think. And then when Mom first brought Dave to our home in Missouri, it was for my master's ceremony that my dad was supposed to be there for. So it felt like it was too soon. But Dave knew, looking back, I know that Dave knew that Mom needed him there to get through it without Elmer. So my son Nicholas, of course, my kids are all over the country, and so I asked him, and he explained it this way. He said, it was a little uncomfortable at first. And we weren't sure what to think when Grandma brought Dave down for that first time. At first, his presence seemed to emphasize the loss of Grandpa, like, wow, what's going on? But Dave was such a special, incredible guy. He had such a calm, loving demeanor. He was often quiet, but when he spoke, you knew it had weight and it meant something. his soft voice drew you in, and we all leaned a little closer, right? And you were just compelled to listen to his wisdom because he didn't give much of it out. It was just there all the time. Few people, this is from my son, and I agree, few people have that kind of effortless, understated magnetism. But that was truly his gift. My family and I are so grateful that we were able to share a small part of him and his family with our family, and that we became stronger and better people because of knowing Dave Skitt. And I miss him so much. Thank you.
Folks, thank you very much for coming. For those of you who don't know me, if you're out in the crowd, my name is Clark Klingenpeel, and I go by Sparky. I'm here to represent the National Ski Patrol, and I just hope I can do it justice. 12 years on the patrol with Dave. The things that we've all learned from Dave over the years and what he has done for us and what he has meant for us as a patrol and as NSP in the state of Alaska. It would not be what it is today without Dave Skitt. There is no doubt about that. He was everything for NSP in the state of Alaska. For years and years and years, Dave was everywhere. He was at Alyeska. He was at Arctic Valley. He was at division meetings. He was at, and then he had parties too. He liked to do that too. So anyhow, it's just, it is absolutely amazing what he has done over the years. I reached out and heard different stories from different people, different patrollers who have known Dave a lot longer than I have. But there were a lot of things that has come out with what his family has said too and everything else. Dave was a man of not very many words, but when he spoke, you better listen because he was going to tell you something that you needed to know. Throughout his career, he's been honored on the patrol side with different awards, including National Outstanding Patroller. I mean, for the nation, that is just a tremendous thing for our small little patrol force here in the state of Alaska. It's unbelievable that he was cherished with that honor. Other things with Dave do, Alyeska owes Dave tremendously because he built Alyeska. Not the money-wise, but he built Alyeska and he made that patrol what it is today. He started there in 1960. 1960. Okay, I'm not going to date myself, but I wasn't born yet. Unbelievable that he served that place for that many years. He loved it, he loved the people, he loved skiing, and he loved serving others and helping others in their time of need. If you've ever visited the aid room at Alyeska, Dave built it. That is just unbelievable. And of course, he had help. I mean, other patrollers would help him out with different projects, but Dave made it happen. There's no doubt about it. There were other stories from older patrol days and everything else when there was some trouble at the patrol, and Dave Skitt went to the managing director at Alyeska and figured out a way to make things happen. That was many, many years ago, and the patrol at Alyeska would not be there today if it wasn't for Dave Skitt. We just can't list all the things he's done. When I started on the patrol, if you wanted to find Dave, you went into the roundhouse, and there he was at dispatch. He might have been asleep, he might have been awake, but he never missed a radio call. It was pretty amazing. Every time you went to an OEC refresher, every time when you were new and you went to an OEC class to learn about being a first responder, Dave Skitt was there. Division meetings for the state of Alaska, Dave Skitt was there. A lot of us didn't know, but Dave Skitt served for years on the National Awards Committee. And Dave Skitt would go to the National Convention for NSP on his own dime, just so he could be there and represent and find out more about. It was just unbelievable what he has done for all of us in the NSP. A family man, and there is no doubt about it. A gentleman, never had a bad word to say about anyone. Again, though, when he spoke, you definitely listened. And then there were the parties. Starting in the locker room, of course, you know, Dave loved his scotch and stuff. He would have his scotch at the end of the day after we're all down and off the hill. It was wonderful. And Dave hosted for many, many years our end of the season party. And it was just the greatest thing ever. Dave would sit out there and make sure the steaks got done, make sure everybody had a good time, and all it was about a party. So a few years ago, we had a little celebration for Dave, and a bunch of patrollers got together and made this chair to honor his career, if you will, in the National Ski Patrol as a volunteer. 60 years being a volunteer, dedicated service to the National Ski Patrol. So we presented this to Dave and Rose here a couple years back, and Dave got up and made a speech. And again, everybody needs to listen. So I'm going to roll this, and we're going to hear from Dave one more time.
Starting skiing here in 1960. I came in as a member of the Hillberg Ski Patrol. We were replacing Denali Patrol because they took a weekend off. And I've been here ever since. And basically in those early days, we just had Chair 1, not the rebuilt one. We had no grooming, no night skiing. And so that means this time of the year, at about 3 o'clock, we're shutting the hill down and going home. And gradually we got Chair 2, and that got wiped out the first year. Avalanche took it out. They had groomed the night path to the base and destroyed the base of that chair. The bull that went in the canyon. We did a lot of hand charging. We didn't have guns in those days. Even like if you wanted to get an avalanche in the shadows, you went out at the end of Silvertip and tied a shot in the tree and skied off. So it's changed a lot over the years. A lot of it's been for the better. A lot of improvements that have taken place over the years. And I know Denali Patrol covered this until '77, and they got told not to come back. And the national chairman came in on a staff visit, and next thing I know, I got asked to start a new patrol here. So I started a new volunteer patrol, and we've been here ever since and improving on our skills. And we require a lot more of the people now than we did in the old days. I think it's for the better. Jill, good to see you. And your husband was a good inspiration for a lot of us. But thanks to everybody, and I'll still be around in dispatch. And I don't need that cheat sheet anymore. And I don't print as neat as Brianna does. She wrote so small you could hardly read it. But I appreciate everything tonight and all the camaraderie we've had over the years, building up with people and getting people trained up and moving people into administrative jobs. Ben, you've done a great job. I hope you keep it up.
Yep.
And we talked with Scott Hilliard, and he's been doing a good job following Kim Kennedy. They've got keeping this place safer for us to ski in. So let's keep going with our training. Thanks.
All right. That was the last time that, as a patrol, we had a party with Dave and Rose. We're going to miss him, and we're going to miss him a ton. We've all got bands that came today with Dave's name on it and everything. First responder, volunteer, legend. Dave Skitt defined all of those. Volunteer, legend, and first responder with his entire life. His dedication to the National Ski Patrol is beyond reproach. I can't say this any better, that he is by far the most dedicated person I have known in a service to a volunteer organization. Unbelievable. Very quickly, if you have ever been an NSP patroller in the state of Alaska, I want you to stand up right now. And for those of you who are not standing, look around. Dave Skitt built each and every one of us, and we are forever grateful to him and his service. Thank you. You can have your seat. I just have one last thing to say to the family and everything else that Dave did for us and everything else, and for everyone here and stuff and everything else. I know there's a ton of stories about Dave. I know I've missed a few that I had written down here, but I'm going to close with this. So, if we all live our lives and serve others the way Dave Skitt did his entire life, our world would be a much greater place to live in. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Courtney McLaughlin Skitt. I am the son-in-law and husband to Alan. And almost 20 years ago, I had the opportunity to come back up to Alaska. I grew up coming to Alaska. My mother's sister lived here with her husband. They raised their son. Alan and I met in Dallas. And it was time to come up and meet the rest of the family. We flew in, and Dave got us at the airport, and he picked us up in a car that had decals and flags and lettering and all of this stuff. And I walked out of the airport here and I was like, what is this? And he's like, oh, it's just Dad's ski patrol car. It's no big deal. Okay. We get loaded up, off we go. And I happened to speak to my aunt later that evening, and she said, you understand Alan's dad's kind of a big deal, right? And I said, well, ski patrol and he's retired? And she goes, no. He rides in planes and helicopters and he goes and saves people's lives. And I said, oh, okay, all right, good enough. And she goes, yeah, no, he's just no going in. He's kind of a big deal. And it was just really wonderful to be welcomed into the house on Cutwater Circle and to quickly have my family enveloped into this family, and the blessing and the gift of that are not to be taken lightly and are not to be casual about. It's important. Family is important. The family that you are given and the family that you choose to bring along with you are incredibly important in our lives. And I love your sentiment that if we served with the heart that Dave did, what a better world this would be. And imagine the things that we could accomplish. Families aren't easy. Marriage isn't easy. Raising kids isn't easy. It's a lot of work. But oh, the return on that investment, the joy and the love for however long the good Lord above allows us to have it and to cherish it is so worth that work. I will cherish some pretty comical memories of being at parties at the Skitt house, or when Dave and Rose would travel down to stay with us and we would entertain, and to look across the room and there would sit my father-in-law with a three-finger pour in a chair in the corner, just watching it all unfold, and a smile on his face, because that's what mattered to him. To see family, to see love, and to see joy. And that, he was like, his expression was that of a kid at Christmas, to see his family enjoying each other and being together. So I would ask that you join me in prayer and bow your heads. Creator, Christ, and Holy Spirit, we welcome you into this space and at this time to fill our hearts with love, with memories, with cherished experiences, and with hope for tomorrow. Guide each of us in our days ahead and help us each to open our hearts to be more like Dave, to think first of others and what may do well and right and fair for them, and how may we be a blessing for the lives of those people that touch us. In your name we pray in celebration for a life well lived, for the gift of David Skitt, and for the gift that this family will carry forward. Amen.
Thank you for all those words and memories. Next, I'm going to read the paramedic prayer, and then we're going to have flag honors for all of his service, followed by the bagpiper. I've been asked to let you know that the bagpiper, when it plays, sometimes it's loud, and so if you do have a hearing device, you might turn that down. Otherwise, you might be jumping up and down, right? Screaming hallelujah or something. Medic prayer. Brother, when you weep for me, remember it was meant to be. Lay me down, and when you leave, remember I will be at your sleeve. In summer's heat or winter's snow, I will be on every call you go. In the back, compressing 1, 2, 3. You'll save a life and think of me. In neighborhoods where bullets fly, at fires where young victims cry, where cars collide and dreams are crushed, I'll be there with you in a rush. The unit which I now ride on is fully staffed with medics gone. Those who died in MVAs and those who died in other ways. As paramedics, we see firsthand the death that plagues our fellow man. We try to put it out of mind, but it's impossible, we all will find. Our memories we do ignore as we approach our patient's door, for we know we are the only prayer for the lovely life who needs us there. So remember as you wipe your tears, the lives to which I added years, for they are what's made my life worth living. In this silence, there is peace and there is love. Cherish the memories that are forever sacred and be comforted by Dave's love, because life is truly better because he was here. The family would love for you to stick around and have some coffee and fellowship and share more memories. We've had tears and we've had laughter. Tell some more stories and introduce yourself to them, because they may not know many of you. And somebody had asked me, said you guys have all grown up and they don't recognize you. And so please join in the back and fellowship with coffee. And this concludes the service. Thank you all for attending.